What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. Welcome back to another watch list video. Hope you all had a great weekend. Ready for the week ahead, right? Um, Last week, not too much to do. Realistically, for those that have just sat on your hands and done absolutely nothing, props to you. Some names traded sideways, while the market pulled back. So there's some nice relative strength to keep an eye on, right? During those kinds of periods, I'm focused on the names that are holding up the best, showing relative strength. Those are always going to be at the very top of my list. I did absolutely nothing on Thursday and Friday, but I think it was Wednesday. I took a small position in AMD, was stopped out, took a small loss. So that is what it is. But I guess that was my thing that I did last week. But I didn't even have to do that, right? Earnings season is right around the corner. This week we got names like GEV, right? Google also reports this week. That's going to be pretty big. Tesla reports this week. Texas Instruments is another one, and then Intel is a big one. Reports this week. So that's going to be super interesting, right? Your breath continues to deteriorate day after day here. Whether you're looking at the stocks that are down each day 4% plus, or the stocks that are down 25% in a quarter, has just been growing. Whatever you want to look at, breath has not been good. And even like stocks down 13% plus, same thing. It's just been growing, and you can look at it from many different ways. But breadth has not been good, right? The stocks have been not acting great, especially to the long side, of course. The short side's been working really nice. Um, so, but there's, like I said, there's certain groups that have been definitely standing out through all that madness. So that's definitely what most of these stocks are that I'm paying attention to personally. I'm going to quickly go over the futures market, right? Your NQ. You get a flat open, and then you're just kind of pushing it a little bit. I mean, it's really nothing, but either way, I don't care about what it's doing right now. It's more so you lost the 50-day on Thursday, you traded lower on Friday. So I think it would be nice to see us push down to the bottom of this range, maybe get an undercut and rally, kind of give us a double bottom base type of look. If we can get down there, that would be super interesting. But your crude oil did gap up right into the declining 50-day and the resistance gap, the close of the resistance gap. So that's it's already kind of getting a little bit of a I had a bearish engulfing right there on the 5 minute, and it's kind of getting a little bit of a pull, but definitely a spot where I think this thing might want to slow down. Your dollar kind of running into a flattening 10 and 20 after a double inside day. Almost looks like a little mini bear flag, but who knows? I look at a weekly chart, and this thing just looks like a flag. So it really doesn't look bad. Maybe it just needs to trade sideways for a few more days and then get back above the 10, 20, and we'll see how it acts. But I don't know. I think the dollar looks fine if you're looking at a weekly chart. So would need to see it get back above the 10, 20. Obviously, wouldn't be good for your stocks. Gold looks like it's building a ledge and it wants to go lower. It really looks horrible. Your Kospi is gapping down overnight, like it always does. Another one where it's like maybe trades lower into this pivot. We're almost getting there. That's probably a spot where I would say it's probably going to want to bounce. Besides then, just letting it do what it does. I think it kind of rejected that 20 week, and it also lost the 20 week. Same thing with Samsung. Um, right? If you look at your Samsung losing the 20 week, right? Another one where it's like you got a big support level. Filling the gap would be a super interesting spot to see it bounce. I'm not trading any of these, but obviously keep an eye on them. This is a big holding in the DRAM, but to fill that gap would be interesting. I mean, this is a super nasty unwind. So, I do think it's going to bounce eventually. I don't think these things are just going to go straight down forever, but definitely not an area of the market where I want to trade. Like I said, the NQ, right? You're below the 50. I'll watch for a small bounce, whether we just get a straight bounce up into the 10, 20, or the 50-day in here like that. Could be an undercut rally on the short. I don't know. We'll have to see how it trades, but ideally, I would like to see it lower and give it an undercut and rally spot down here. This is where I'd maybe look at some other uh, names that can undercut and rally, like Intel. Even though you report earnings this week, right? You undercut that level. Can we rally back through it? I'll watch it for sure tomorrow, right? It's not on my list because it's in a bad group, and it's in a downtrend. So we'll have to see, but definitely a spot where wouldn't be surprised to see an undercut rally. But if you get an earnings gap up in the base, that would be the best case scenario, right? The short side of the market has been definitely working best. So trying to focus on stuff like this, you're just going to be caught trying to buy the lows over and over and over again. Looking at the QQQ, right? Another one where it's like you're pretty much at lows. A little bit lower would be nice. Or this is a bounce spot and we're just going to push higher. Like if you look at the XLK, right, you kind of came right into that left side low. So I wouldn't be surprised to see us bounce here, but there's a lot of overhead supply, right? You had a gap here, you had a gap here. You got the declining 10 and 20. You got the 50-day that's going to start to flatten out if we bounce, most likely. And I mean, SMH, like same thing, right? You're at support. You had a nice bounce with some volume there, some above average volume, but you got so much overhead supply that I just don't know. We'll have to see. If we get like a gap up tomorrow or something, and obviously not going to be chasing that. Don't want to be chasing any gap ups into supply in any way. That would not be pretty. So we'll have to see if it bounces. I expect probably a bounce in some of these things. XBI, right? You had a gap down, and then you close back above the 20-day. There's absolutely no tightness on this. I think Moderna kind of explains that, you know, where you're just kind of straight down, no tightness, not a setup I'd be really paying attention to it. But I will say KYMR, another, like, I think the holdings in this are pretty much all 1% of the XBI. So not, it's not heavily weighted. But the KYMR, not a bad setup, right? You look at a weekly chart, 3 inside weeks, it's starting to get pretty tight here, trying to build higher lows. Doesn't look too bad. Not something that is on my list that I care too much to trade, but doesn't look bad. Twist, though, I will say, I do like to look at this. He came into a support cap, like literally to the absolute T on Friday, which maybe that was a stock that you could have bought. That I could have bought, but not a bad area for sure. But the weekly chart looks pretty good. It's got earnings as well in a few weeks. Like, that's going to be the case on a lot of these names. So definitely being patient is the number one before any of these setups. But super nice candle, could be a higher low. Just trade sideways for a few more days. Continue to build out this like sideways that it's built. But I like how it's back above the 1020 after the gap down. So it's on my list. Super interesting. And then I think like SYRE, not a bad looking biotech name as well. Not a bad weekly chart. Kind of trying to build out right under the pivot. Something I'm not going to trade, but definitely interesting. You look at your Magnificent Seven, which has been a good group recently as far as the bounce relative to the market, right? You had some tightness above the 200-day. You did have a nice bounce. You're kind of pulling back. It doesn't look bad, but I will say it needs tightness, right? You look at Apple. Apple looks awesome. New 52-week high, new all-time high looks amazing. But, I'm not buying this thing up here. There's no tightness. Where's the tightness? NVIDIA, you're right under the prior left high. The all-time high from October 2024. It doesn't look bad. The weekly chart looks good. Nice pullback. You are below the 10 and 20, so just build out sideways for a few days here. Make me want to think that we can build a higher low here and push higher. But, not my favorite look, but at the same time, it's not a bad look, right? It doesn't look too bad. Meta, same thing where you kind of gap down. But this one did hold the 200, and it was acting really nice above that. But to anyone that bought this setup, on the long side, thinking that Meta was a nice relative strength name, right? Every relative strength name recently has turned into relative weakness. So it's very clear that the long side, no matter what group you're focusing on, pretty much, it's just not working, and you're going to get stopped out, and you're going to take losses. So you must size super small, or just do nothing and sit on your hands and wait for stuff to actually act, better in the environment to improve. But, not a bad candle off the 200-day. It's pretty ugly. I won't lie, but just a few days sideways. I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a higher low and this thing goes straight up. But either way, if it goes straight up, it'll eventually down the road give an actual setup when the environment improves, and that'll be interesting. Amazon is another one where it doesn't look too bad, right? You're kind of back into that little base that it's built down here. It's building higher lows. Can this be the next higher low around here? Maybe give us an inside day or two and just build a higher low right out here would look pretty nice. I will watch for a push out of this little base area, but weekly chart, not my favorite. Doesn't look horrible, but the rejection of the 50 was really ugly. But we'll see if it can really build a higher low, or it's just going to break down. I don't know, but it's definitely something I want to keep an eye on. With the way the market's been acting, it could break down. Tesla, absolute piece of shit. The institutions are definitely flushing the toilet on this stock, but it's got earnings on Wednesday, which is going to be your big earnings of the week. So definitely something I'm paying attention to. But I mean, this thing just has looked like crap, right? It tried to get back above the 200-day, and then it got absolutely smoked. And then it tried to get back, and then like this action is not tradable. In fact, it's probably tradable to the short side in hindsight now. I was trying to look at this name for a short, but it's just too volatile. But it has earnings this week, so it's going to be interesting. Google, same thing, right? Your super nasty rejection on the 50 on Thursday. It's got earnings on Wednesday. Will be super interesting. Your DRAM, where you had your highest volume ever, which I don't know if that means too much to me. It probably doesn't, but you kind of undercut support. Can we push back through? It would be interesting. I think a bounce can happen, but another one where it's like you got a whole lot of overhead supply. So definitely something I'm going to keep an eye on, right? You look at your SanDisk, just I don't see any trade here. You undercut support. Looks to me like we're probably going to rally back through. I think best case scenario, like an inside day tomorrow, and then that would make me believe you want to rally back through. But then you got to deal with a flattening 50 and declining 10 and 20 and all the gaps from all the times we've gapped down. So the trend is not looking the best, but I do think, you get like pretty much 3 or 4 weeks straight down like this, it's going to bounce here for like a week or two, most likely. WDC, I think it was, came right into support. And actually, I mean, I wouldn't try to buy this, but super nice intraday undercut and rally like that setup as far as like action wise was pretty beautiful. And it really pushed away the whole rest of the day and slowly gave some of it back. But I mean, this was awesome. So right into support. That was interesting. That was definitely an interesting set. We'll see if we just undercut these lows straight up or we bounce from here, and then we'll see. But I mean, definitely wouldn't be shorting these stocks right into their, as they've already made a massive move down. This is where you're covering the position after being short. MU, same thing. Right at support. We'll see if it rallies back through. Don't want to be shorting these names in the hole. But also, I don't know if I'd want to be long in these, especially not on a gap up if they do gap up. Bug, I think, is the absolute best looking group and ETF in the market right now. This thing looks awesome. It's been digesting in such a nice way as the market's breaking down, and then, not a bad day on Friday. Give us an inside day. I think this would be a 5-star chart. I think lots of the stocks inside of this group, as far as cybersecurity, are 5 stars. So super nice to go through my list here. Band. Right, software name. There has been so many software names acting pretty awesome. Reddit. I mean, some of the Reddit did break down on Thursday and Friday. It was pretty ugly. It did lose a 200, but I'll watch to see if it gets back above. It was acting nice as far as relative strength, but it pretty much sold off. Twilio, not bad. You're above the 50. You held the 50. You had nice above average volume, nice reversal bar, kind of right back at the pivot from the earnings gap up. Not a bad spot. Definitely interesting as far as your software group. Another software name, Snow, looks pretty decent. Just continue trading sideways here for me, and it would look a little bit better. Apps. This one got hit pretty hard, but you're right at the 50. Definitely a spot I'd watch for a bounce. NTNX, another software name. Really not a bad setup. Inside day on Friday. This one wasn't too bad, but when you got this much overhead supply, it's not my favorite setup. I'd much rather go with a band, that's still got overhead supply, but it's right at a new 52-week high. So to me, an inside day tomorrow would be awesome. You did just have a bullish engulfing, an open equals low candle, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Open equals low. So an inside day would be perfect. I will watch this name. There's other, IoT acted nice on Friday. Been showing relative strength. It's been building sideways. It's right under a pivot, trying to build almost like a cup with handle. Doesn't look too bad. NAVN is another one. You had an inside week. Not too bad. But not as tight as I'd want. It's kind of a little bit of a wedge here, but I think this one had a nice setup down here and even down here. But it's software and it's been super strong. So Band falls in that category, and it's one of the better looking names. You got an inside week. Look at how beautiful this looks. Looks to me like it wants to go higher. So nice pullback in the 20, nice hold. We'll watch for an inside day. Twist, I talked about this one, right? The weekly chart doesn't look too bad. Nice pullback. Just build out a few more days and be super interesting. NTAP, another one where you get an inside week. Super nice looking chart. And not a bad day, kind of undercut and rallying back through the 10 and 20. Hold above it would be super interesting. I think inside day tomorrow would be awesome, but I will watch for a push above this little pivot from June 22nd, or just realistically, it's pretty much just Friday's highs. I just want to see if it can get over that and then build itself out. But it's building a nice little flag here almost. So just trade sideways for a few more days, or just push up and then go sideways and get tight. Definitely an interesting name. I think that falls in the same category pretty much as actually, I don't know really what NTAP does, but I think it's like HPE and Dell. So NTAP, not too bad. Net, this thing is at all-time highs. It's been acting awesome. I definitely didn't even have to debate putting this one on my list. Had a super nice day on Friday, and overall, this name has been holding up so well. Give us an inside day. If the market breaks down into support or something and you get an inside day on a name like this, super interesting, awesome looking chart. Just maybe needs to just continue building out the right side, get a little bit more tight here, and I really like this. HPE, talk about another inside week that looks pretty good after a nice bounce. So not bad, right? Get back above your 1020, aka get back above this prior day high from Fridays, where I'll be watching. And to me, this looks like it's got a big spot to build a higher low here, practically right off the 50 day. So push above Friday's highs, looks pretty good. Palo Alto, a name I own, and oh my goodness, this group is looking awesome. And Palo Alto looks so great. Get tight for a few more days in here, and you got yourself a stock that looks like it wants to go to a new high. This thing looks awesome, and all the stocks in the rest of this group look really good. Palo Alto looks awesome. Dell holding up so well. It's above the 50. It's one of the very few that are holding, but HPE's holding up pretty well. NTAP's holding up pretty well. This group is actually acting really awesome as far as your computer processing hardware. And electronic technology names just absolutely beautiful pullback. Or not beautiful, sorry, I'm getting a little distracted here, but you had a bearish engulfing. You're kind of right into the 50. Is this a spot where we build a higher low off the 50? It would be interesting. Just looks like it's building a base to me. Maybe it needs a long time, like a month or two, which that would be pretty crazy, but a few more weeks, I think, and we'll have even a few days, and we'll have a better idea of where this thing really wants to go. But doesn't have as much overhead supply as some names. So definitely a name I like. It's holding up extremely well. I'll watch to see how it trades, but it had a nice day on Friday, right off the 50. Can this build a higher low, or is it going to come into support, give us an undercut and rally double bottom base, undercut the 50, rally back through, definitely a name to continue watching every single day. Keep your eye on LOY, Eli Lilly. You had a nice bounce on Thursday, which kind of got back below the 10 and 20. Wasn't my favorite, right? I did own this name, and it did stop me out, but it moved so slow that it was all right. You could play this with LOYX, but a nice inside day on Friday. The weekly chart looks good. You know, you've kind of been digesting for 3 weeks inside this little pullback, so a push through Friday's high or this little June 8th pivot will be a super interesting spot for me that I'll be watching. I think it looks great. And GH is another one in that group as far as healthcare. And this is a name I own from the flat base, and I want to add to this name. I shouldn't have sold any on the way up. I'm just joking, but like, man, this name looks awesome. It looks absolutely awesome, and definitely a name I'm going to continue to keep an eye on. Watching over the prior day high. You pull into the 20-day in a super nice way, nice candle. Push above Friday's high, and that'll get super interesting. Just absolute beautiful digestion. This is a perfect flag to me, right? You get back above the two, or you know, you hold the 200 on a massive like fucking downtrend, or just pull back in general. You build out a little bottoming base, you get a super nice big update, and then you build sideways, and now here's your flag. So this looks really good. TGTX, one of the very few health technology names alongside GH and LLY that I think looks awesome. You did get an inside week. This is some of the best looking charts in my opinion on the weekly. TGTX looks really good. I will watch Friday's high for higher low setup. Same thing as GH, right? Higher low setup, LLY, higher low, right? You build a higher low compared to prior lows. So CrowdStrike obviously falls in your Palo Alto group. You can throw in Okta. I think CrowdStrike is a name I still own, of course. It offered a higher low setup here even too. I own it from down here, but a few more days of tightness, man. This thing will look awesome. It give us an inside week even, you know, just give us a week of tightness, and you got yourself a nice stock. Market breaks down. This thing continues trading sideways, building out the right side of its base. Super, super interesting stuff, right? You look at Okta, looks really good. You look at S, looks awesome. TENB looks great. It's building sideways. FTNT is building sideways and right at new all-time highs. QLYS, like this name or this group goes on and on. Look at how good this name looks, right? This group looks awesome. The best looking group in my opinion. AMD, I debated putting this one on the list. To me, it looks like it probably wants lower. Not a bad candle Friday, but you're right into the 50, rejecting it pretty much, right? Falls into the SMH where maybe it wants to go a little bit lower. Who knows? But even if we get a bounce, you got a big gap here you got to get out of. But can we build a higher low here? It's possible. Definitely something I'll keep an eye on, right? You get your first low. And then could this be that second higher low right here? Would be super interesting. Just needs to get back above the 50 and then get tight. And I'm extremely just name to keep an eye on. It's been holding up really well. Or has it? I don't know. It's been super choppy up here. So a shakeout back to the bottom, I think was very much needed. So we'll see how this thing acts. Definitely super interesting. DDOG, one of my favorite looking names on this chart. Or on this list, falls into the group of CrowdStrike above the priority high, and I'm ready to go for a name like this. Looks awesome. But yeah, my goal is to stay patient as long as the QQQ is below the 10 and 20, keeping it simple, keeps account size small, risk small. Good luck. See you tomorrow.